Cogent to do a review, but here we are, and let's go ahead and get right to it. You know, it might very well be possible that I'm the last person to review this on YouTube. I'm not even kidding. This was such a popular knife when it was first released because it was one of the only button lock folding knives at this price point that existed pretty much anywhere, right? It was basically the Malibu or bust for a long time until the Cogent and many of these other button locks were released, not just by Civivi, but a number of other brands. The question in my head is, how does the Cogent stack up to the other button locks that I've experienced in recent times? And after playing with it a little bit, you know, surprisingly, it weathers the storm really well. The problems that were mentioned initially with this, and I'll get into that in a bit, are still present, but all of which are easy to alleviate. So first of all, if you've never seen this knife, let's go ahead and run through some basic stats that are important. Number one is the blade length. This comes in just under, and I mean perfectly under, 3.5 inches. Gotta love it when that happens. They measure this at 3.47 inches. I love the fact that Civivi is conscious about making sure that they stay within blade laws. I really, really like that. And this is another perfect example of it. Now, in addition to that, it also has a handle length of just over 4.25 inches. So it's actually a pretty small handle for a blade this big. I mean, when you look at it closed, you can see, I mean, we're coming all the way to the end. Really nice handle to blade ratio on this knife. And action, well, I mean, if you've never experienced a button lock, it's a unique experience because there's pretty much nothing stopping the blade the moment you press that button down. It just kind of wham, just slams right back into the handle. And that can be a little unnerving, but I will say this. If you're starting out in this hobby, in many ways, a button lock can be one of the best knives that you can get because you can keep your hands completely out of the cutting path while you're closing it, and that is really nice. It's also a great knife to learn to fidget with because you can open it with the button, you can close it with the button, sorry, I'm trying to keep it in focus. Open and close it with the button, you can open and close it with the flipper tab, and because of this detent, you can even reverse flick it. Now that brings up probably the only real negative of the Cogent, and that is the detent, which is quite light. Let me see if I can try to keep it in frame when I do it. There you go. And you can see even with such a light blade, it still is able to be flipped open quite easily. Now this is fixable, and a number of people have shown how to do that. If I can find a video, I will go ahead and link it. But it's going to have a very light detent. Now, if you're willing to take this thing apart, which is easy because it uses T8 body screws, something I love about Civivi, you can actually stretch that spring out ever so much, and you will actually get a better resistance in this mechanism that will offer more retention. So if you really like this knife, that's a very quick fix for probably the only problem that this knife has. Other than the styling, some people love and some people hate the fact that this actually curves outwards in both directions. Now, if you are worried about your hand slipping, say in slimy environments or muddy, wet, you name it, the fact that it actually opens up in both directions is going to keep you from sliding up on that blade much better than some of the other knives out there. In addition to having that, finger flipper tab. Whew, words, they're hard. Anyway, really nice piece. And of course, 14C28, one of my absolute favorite budget steels, and done really well here. They always tend to get a pretty good heat treatment on this, and I love just how thin this blade is. A great thickness and blade grind for pretty much anything you can come up against in EDC, and it's going to work really well for food prep as well. So all in all, I mean, this is like the last review on the Cogent, saying basically the same things, but all I can say is, well done, Civivi. You've created a knife that has weathered the storm and is still relevant even now, because no one can make a button lock, or I haven't seen many button locks that have come out below this price point with these materials. So well done. And it is every bit as enjoyable